Hello, everyone. This is Gene, and welcome to the second episode of Astral Doorway. This video I'm making is because someone from the Astral Projection Reddit called Amelia requested that I do a sort of reflection on one of my out-of-body experiences, as she's going to do an animation on it, I believe. So thank you, Amelia. In this OBE, I confirmed it and the legitimacy of it through going out of my body, walking around my house, seeing something, and then going back to my body and going back to that place to confirm what I saw. So I'll be describing that experience now. This happened around 8 years ago. I had been practicing lucid dreaming, meditation, and astral projection for a couple of years at the time. But more recently, prior to the experience that we're talking about here, I had only just recently got into astral projection because for me, I first got into lucid dreaming, then meditation, and then astral projection. So this was one of my first out-of-body experiences. Back then, I didn't really have much doubts about my out-of-body experiences, and I didn't think about confirming them, really. I believed in them. I knew they were real. Through coming out of body, in the experiences themselves, I felt wholeheartedly, as I still do now, that it is real, especially because I had a lot of lucid dreams beforehand. Dreams being, in essence, just hallucinations, you know? There's not that much between a dream and a lucid dream. The only difference is that you are aware of the dream. You're aware of the hallucination that you're making in the moment. Or should I say, you're aware that your subconscious is making them. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, come on, you can't just know whether you're in the astral through just feeling, right? Surely. But yes, really, it is like that, especially if you're experienced. It's just the same thing as saying, you know you're in the physical right now, right? If you try and remember a dream, you know that was a dream, right? And you know this is the physical. Well, it's the same for the astral. You know you're in the astral. But of course, if you're quite new to this and still wondering how you can tell, there are a few indicators you can use. One of them is if you're in a dream, you'll find you can easily manipulate the environment. You can remove the sun from the sky if you want, or you can add planets to it, which I've done for fun many of times. You can move buildings, but in the astral, you cannot do that because the astral has almost physical-like qualities, and things exist there with a life of their own. It is very much connected to the physical realm in terms of their relationship. The dimension of the physical and the dimension of the astral don't just exist independently completely. They are linked in intimate and mysterious ways. So, of course, another way you can tell this is by confirming your experience, which, let me say, is a lot more harder. And I consider myself quite lucky to have this experience, especially considering I didn't intend it. I didn't intend to do it at all. It's hard to do because the astral plane is a vast, multi-dimensional world, exponentially larger than the physical world, the physical Earth. You need to have a very refined will, and you'll often find yourself propelled into unexpected and unintended worlds um, which may not be close to physical Earth at all. So that's the problem. It's all about tuning yourself to a dimension that is close to physical Earth. You need to project your consciousness into a plane of existence which is close or parallel to Earth. So one needs to be very grounded in the physical. You need to, if you're really determined to do this sort of experiment, try not to be too involved in your mind with fantasies like fantasy worlds or heavens or hells. Just be here, grounded, here and now in the physical. So, I will give a little exercise at the end of the video here, just to give a bit more tips on how one could possibly do that. But as I've said, I've never intended to confirm my experiences. I've only had a few, and this was one of the most significant for me. I just don't look for these type of experiences because once I'm out in the astral, there is so many things to do. A lot of things I'm much more interested in pursuing. And as many of you know, once you're in the astral, you think of so many things of what to do. You become overwhelmed and excited. And but I know a lot of people want to find that kind of experience where they can confirm it for themselves. And it is very good for your subconscious mind to rid yourself of any doubt. But more on that later. So in this experience, it happened on a summer's day. I remember very clearly because it was very hot. And we don't get a lot of sunny days here in the UK. And I was very tired. I didn't get much sleep the night before. I'd done a lot of work in the morning. So by midday, I basically collapsed on my bed for a nap and quickly fell asleep. Back then, I went to sleep very late. So I think I went to sleep around 4 in the morning and woke up at 8 because my mum woke me up and I had to do things with my annoying family who's bossing me around. So yeah, I went back to bed after I was done with all that. I also did some college work, I believe, in the morning. So I was stuck in my room for a few hours before this happened. So when I fell asleep, very soon I felt vibrations and got up out of my body as I regularly would. No fancy techniques, no rope method, no rolling out, etc. I simply just got up as I would have with my physical body. And also, just to add, my physical body wasn't in any fancy position. In fact, I was on my belly, sprawled out on my bed, on top of the covers. I was on my bed sideways. I literally just collapsed. I was so tired. So as I got up, I immediately noticed a shimmering golden light filling the air of my house, of my room. It was beautiful. I'd never seen my house like this. I immediately thought, it must have been a hot day, and this is the solar rays, entering the house. It's like a solar version of my house. And there was, at the house I lived in at the time had big windows, so a lot of sunlight came through, and it was just beautiful to see. As I looked around my room was exactly the same way as it was in the physical before I went to sleep. So I knew, I was on a dimension that was basically parallel to physical Earth. I could see myself sleeping, peacefully collapsed on the bed. I didn't want to look at myself for too long I didn't want to overthink anything. So I went out of my door and carried on just appreciating this amazing luminosity of gold in the air. Uh, when I inspected it closer, I could see tiny lights glimmering in the air, like someone threw fairy dust just everywhere, or kind of like nightlight bugs. I'm not sure what they're called. But yes, it was just beautiful. I was touching the walls. I was seeing how the light brought everything to life, and it was just wonderful. I was becoming so fascinated with this beautiful light that I walked down my corridor and just in complete awe of what I was seeing. Sometimes when you project, particularly at night, things can be a little darker, and your subconscious can be a little more fearful, fearfully suggestive, so to speak. But this was definitely not possible here at all. There was no way I was going to be scared in this experience. Back then I was quite new, so I think I had some fears. But this particular experience was just full of joy. I loved it, and it was full of wonder. Um, I must have done that for 5 to 10 minutes, just looking around like I was enchanted. So as I walk down my corridor, please also take into account that I have to go past around 3 rooms in the house. It's quite a large house. In order to reach the stairways the stairway which goes downstairs. Also keep in mind I had been in my room for hours prior to going to sleep, and I live with back then I lived with a lot of people in the house. I had quite a big family. We always had different guests over, and I generally, wasn't interested or knew when my family had people over. So yes, we always had different people around, and the house at the time was quite big, so you generally can't hear what's going on downstairs. Anyway, I eventually walked to the top of the stairs, looking like some bedazzled child. Uh, I took a few steps down the stairs when I noticed my sister sitting on the living room sofa, sat next to her friend. Now, let me say, my sister is she's a social butterfly. She could have had around 7 to 10 different friends in the house who lived nearby in the village. And yes, I saw her sitting there next to her friend. And I did not know they were there. I didn't know what she was doing. She could have been in her room. She could have been out. She could have been at college, at work. I don't know. But I saw her there. Uh, and I saw my sister there browsing on her phone in her pajamas. And I remember very distinctly that she had a blue packet of cheese and onion Walker's crisps. If you're from the US or other countries, I think that's the equivalent of Lay's, the crisp packet Lay's. Anyway, since this was completely new information to me, I decided in that moment to take a mental note and impress this scene in my memory. And then I intentionally went back to my body. I didn't walk back. I just thought about it. And I woke up. That's all you have to do if you want to go back to your body. You simply just intend it, and you will go back to your body. I immediately got up out of bed in my physical body and ran to the stairway, and I saw the exact same scene. My sister in her pajamas, on her phone, with the blue packet of crisps, sat next to her friend. Honestly, I can still feel the shock and the excitement, and just how jaw-dropped I was at what I was seeing. Every time I think back, it's just such a happy memory, and I feel so lucky to have had that experience. I literally confirmed an OBE for myself without trying. I know this isn't like some elaborate test where someone puts a number in a box, you go out of body to try and guess it or something. So this might not sound like the most exciting astral projection confirmation, but for me it was, and it still is. because I know myself, in my experience, that I saw something I knew I couldn't have known. The scene was exactly the way I saw it, all the way down to how my sister was curled up sideways on the sofa facing her friend, and her friend was sitting uh, to the left side of her, facing forwards at our TV screen. It was exactly the way I saw it. I was just elated, honestly. So, as I said, I've never really been I've never really been interested in confirming my astral experiences, and after this experience, I definitely haven't pursued them since. Um, it has happened, similar things, for a couple of times. And actually, I've heard a lot of people who are experienced in astral projection usually go through a sort of natural confirming stage, also, where they have an experience where they just seem to confirm the experience spontaneously without intention, as if it was some sort of subconscious mechanism to help you get to the next stage of freeing yourself from the doubt or skepticism that astral projection isn't real. So yeah, although it's not a necessary thing to do, it really does help you become more grounded in overcoming any sort of disbelief or doubt or speculation. It's an empowering experience. If you want to have a similar experience for yourself, you can ask someone in your house to hide something in a room or change the furniture around in there. Then just restrain yourself and don't ever go in that room until you project yourself into there. If you have a desire to see in the room, I mean, that's good because you have a subconscious urge to go there. You have to feel the desire and use your willpower and intent to go inside the room when you're next out of body. Having this intent as well should also help you come out of body more easily, because often when people come out of body, they overthink the process when they're in the vibrational stage or something, when really just think about what you want to do next. Just focus on coming out. So it's good to have a goal in that sense, a direction of where you want to go. Alternatively, what you could also do is simply, once you're out of body, just look outside your window and look at your street. Hopefully you live on a street with cars in front. And you can count how many cars there are parked outside, their colors, whether there are big ones or small ones, etc. And then simply just wake up, go back to your window and have a look if they are the exact cars that are there. That could be another way you could do it. Those types of things you could try if you want to set up this kind of experiment for yourself. So that was this episode on confirming experiences. Of course, there can always be much more to it. And if you'd like me to clarify on specific things, just leave a comment and I'll reply, or I can expand on another video. Also, if you've had any astral projection confirmation experiences yourself, let us know in the comments below. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel and get involved with the direction that Astral Doorway will take, there's a link for the Patreon. So thank you for listening and see you on the next episode.